Welcome to Life Coaches Unfiltered with your hosts, Doree, Michelle, and Desiree. We are back for episode 4. How are y'all doing this morning?
Woo-hoo. Great. I I'm a little uncertain how I'm feeling today,
Oh my
actually.
God.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm
Oh,
uncertain about what I'm going to eat for breakfast this morning. How about
girl, I already had breakfast. That was part of
that?
my eviction notice was I had a house guest that
Eviction.
anyway, a friend came in for the weekend and I was like, you got to be gone before we start recording.
Be
Uh,
gone.
yeah,
Be gone.
be gone. Yeah, because it was just I was like, we're one take wonders. Like, we cannot, yeah, I can't have extraneous noise in my house because I know that my dog would be like, anyway.
That's
Well,
So
mine is
hilarious.
always a wild card, so I'm just we're one squirrel away from having an interruption that I don't know what else to do.
yeah, I thought about moving my office upstairs and then I was like, no. In the basement, she doesn't have a window to the front of the house. So, yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, it's kind of nice.
That's so funny.
It's the dog barking control. Yeah. Anyway, let's jump into this uncertainty discussion. Um, yeah, so I just background on we kind of decided to talk about this because there's a lot of uncertainty, but life is just uncertain, right? So, I think we think that we all have control, way more control than we really do. And so it's about how do we cope with like living when things are just kind of all over the place. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think that it's definitely a hot topic for what we're going through in these times. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty just all around us. There's uncertainty in my life right now that has nothing to do with what's going on in the world. So it's just something that I think that everybody goes through all the time.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, not that I'm going to be the Debbie Downer, but we don't know what happens when we step outside our house
Yeah.
each day, So
Even in the
we are
house.
we're constantly living in uncertainty every single day.
Mhm.
We
Yes.
don't know we don't like, from a school teacher aspect, when I was in school, I didn't know what the kids were going to be like when I got to school. Every day was a new day and it was crazy.
Mhm.
I would say the same thing even in life coaching, you you have your plan of what you're going to talk about with your client, and then all of a sudden something else comes up and you're like, oh, okay, we're pivoting this way, we're going this way. So, I think every day has uncertainty because we just don't know what's going to happen from day to day.
Mhm.
When I was in yoga teacher training, there was this whole like concept that was like taught to us called the illusion of control. And that we
Ooh.
walk through the world with this illusion that we have control, that things are under control, right? And I was like, oh, that just totally gave me a totally different framework to view the world from of we just have to this is what having faith is about, right? And it's not about religion or a specific dogma, but having faith that things are going to work out or that
Mhm.
things are going to fall into place at some point. It might look like a tornado now, but what can we do to like I remember it was like 2 years ago I interviewed for a job and I was like kind of excited about it. It was a company I really wanted to work for. And I was talking to my sister and like I just had a really bad interview. I'm not going to go into details, but it was not good. And I got off the phone, then I get the letter from HR, like, we're going to pursue other people. And I'm like, oh, and I was talking to my sister and I was struggling. I was on the struggle bus. And I was talking to my sister and she was like, Des, I don't know what to tell you. And I was like, listen, I said, I don't understand why this is happening, but I look forward to the day in which I do, right? So that's kind of that's the mantra that I take when I am swimming in uncertainty of I don't get the plan. I don't understand the whole I divine whatever is happening right now. But yeah, it's just I look forward to the day in which I do, and I could sit down with my cup of coffee and be like, wow, that was a wild ride. I would not want to relive it again, but I'm glad that's over.
I think we've all had wild rides.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So one thing that like when I was talking about the or thinking about this episode, I was like, those periods of uncertainty are really freaking exhausting.
Mm.
Have y'all like experienced that? It was exhausting for me.
I'm still going through it. So for me right now, I mean, it is sometimes a moment by moment thing. You're talking about faith. It's like, for people that don't know, my husband passed in August of last year. And so for me, the uncertainty around everything in that moment, my whole world was rocked. And so every moment, even today, today is 7 months since he passed. And there's still just uncertainty about where am I going to live, my one of my stepdaughters lives with me. Is she coming with me? What is she gonna do when she graduates from she's in welding school, by the way. She's kick-ass. But she
Awesome.
what's she gonna do when she graduates? Where's she gonna live? There's so much of that yeah, it's absolutely just like I don't know, like you said, we go through it all the time, but right now in this period of time in my life, it is definitely, I'm in that cycle. And I feel like for me, the cycle happens like every 7 years, like some major upheaval happens in my life, like major, major, major upheaval happens. And I just have to like buckle up, keep both hands inside the cart at all times and get ready for the ride.
That's so funny. I mean, I kind of feel the uncertainty just, I think even when I decided to quit teaching and that uncertainty of, I got no paycheck coming in, what am I going to do? And I kind of was, there was a heightened of like stress and it was bizarre. But again, things worked out. But again, it was the new normal for me, and I was trying to navigate it, and I didn't know how to navigate it. And that just caused I don't think it didn't cause a lot of friction in my marriage because my husband was like, if you want to quit, go ahead and quit. And I say quit in a nice way. I did the end of the school year. Didn't say, oh yeah, right, I'm done. I saw it out to the end of the school year. But I mean, there was that uncertainty of like, where's the money going to come from to pay our mortgage? And we've got a car note, and we've got bills to pay, and we've got food to put on the table. So it was quite a stressful time. And yeah, navigating it was interesting.
Especially when it comes to money, right? When
Oh,
it comes to money, that is like a trigger, I think, for everybody around uncertainty.
yes.
Where am I going to get it? Will there be enough? It's just a very, I think that goes back to the whole safety issue and that, the hierarchy of needs. And when you go up and down the hierarchy needs, the level of uncertainty actually, I believe, when you're especially down at the bottom, it becomes much more severe. That uncertainty is scary, can be very
Yes.
scary.
Yeah, it was. It was. Because again, I've been used to 18 years, I've been used to having a paycheck every single time, and then it's just like, well, Michelle, you got to hustle for this money. And it's just like, what? What?
I,
Definitely. And I kind of went in, I'll say blind because I was like, oh, how much savings do we have?
Yeah.
I call that the magical paycheck fairy, right? When you have the auto deposit every 2 weeks, the magical paycheck fairy came and sprinkled some money in your bank account, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's hard to break the habit of the magical paycheck fairy.
Yes,
It's
it is.
really freaking hard. And then, the interesting thing is like, I'm just tell people quit their jobs now because I'm like, well, you'll find a way. Like, and then I'm like, well, let me not give that away.
Just quit your job.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, that job sucks. Like what you're doing probably doesn't really matter anyway. Like it's just manufactured stress. And then I'm like, let me just shut up now. It's not my business, Anyway, I don't know everybody's financial situation, but yeah, it's a lot of times I think sometimes the uncertainty can really be like a sieve. Like if you think of gold panning, right? And it's like it's separating all the crap. Like it's from like what stays above it is the really important stuff. And so when you lose the magical paycheck fairy, when you break up with her and you've got to figure out like somehow you just make it work and you're like, well, food and shelter is the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we're going to focus on that, right? Or there's a lot of crap that we spend money on that we think is absolutely necessary. Like my Amazon Prime membership, that was the hard thing to break up with,
I
right?
can't even imagine breaking up with that one.
Listen, I did it. It was uncomfortable for a minute, but you get used to it.
I did thinking about taking my credit card off of it though, so that it makes it harder to purchase things. But I guess that's another
I
discussion.
don't think you can.
You can't.
Well, how are they going to bill you every month?
I don't think you can.
That's instead of the magical paycheck fairy, that's the magical prime fairy. And he is evil and he sucks money out of your account.
Trust me.
But all those magical like gifts like arrive on the porch every,
It's like year-long Santa Claus. Right? I love when my sister sends me an Amazon box and then I get to open it. I was like, oh, this is amazing. She sent me a birthday present. I knew what it was because I asked her for it. And then she put a dog toy in there for my dog. And I was like, oh, I kind of love that, right? So yeah, Shelly, if you're listening, send me some magical stuff from Amazon because you have the Prime membership.
Shelly, if you're listening, send all of us some magic.
Yes. I just don't have a dog, so don't send me it. Don't send me a dog toy. I'm the odd one out. So, just wanted to put that out there. Just in case.
Oh my God. So thinking back to these times of uncertainty, y'all, like what was let's talk about something that was really uncertain and uncomfortable for you and then like how it worked out, right? So like I can go first since I sprung this kind of question on y'all. So that job that I interviewed for 2 years ago, I actually just snagged a contract part-time position with the same company. And
congrats.
I was on a call and I was like, I don't think I would have been happy in that job I was interviewing for because it was much more aligned with my old career. And I'm way happier. And in those 2 years since I interviewed for that job, like I'm in a different place now, right? And I'm delighted to have some predictable income. It's not as awesome as the magical paycheck fairy. Because you do have to like submit invoices and stuff when you're a contractor. But still, I mean, it's a step in the right direction and it's a step towards my new career path, right? So when you are changing careers, which happens a lot in midlife, so if you're going through that in midlife, or if you're just starting out, take steps in that direction, right? But also like it's starting to make sense to me why I didn't get that job 2 years ago because it was not meant for me, right? And it probably would not, I mean, it was not a step in the direction of me, I don't know, fully stepping into coaching. And so, yeah, anyway, it's starting to make more sense.
And if I can go a step further, Desiree, with what I'm hearing from you on yours as well, maybe, just maybe, you weren't ready for the job that you just got as well. And you had other lessons to learn along the way to be able to do the job that you got now. Like, number one, to be hired, but also to just kind of rock it and be confident in what you're doing. So there was a plan, there was an introduction into this company that you're working for, which is an amazing company, by the way. And you were had to learn a little bit more to get where you are now, to be able to like fully receive it, appreciate it, and be able to be confident in doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Like the other times that I kind of feel like it made sense. Thank you, Doree. I want to acknowledge that. Thank you. Um, when my mom died, she died right before COVID. But like in November of 2019, I was like, why is this happening right now? Why? And, I was pushing against it. I was fighting it. And I was angry. I was like, I just want more time with my mom. And then looking back, like March of 2020, my sister and I looked at each other and like, could you imagine? Because my mom lived in another state and she had a very serious disease that required a lot of care. And if her lungs were to get infected with COVID, game over, right? So caregiving for her would have been exponentially harder. And we just looked back and we were like, okay, like that, it was really uncertain and it was really, but it all played out the way it needed to. But when I was in the middle of that caregiving, my fear and my anxiety and the things that would come up in my head was not, it was not a good place to sit and stew, right? And it was so funny, like I was talking to her caregivers about one of my fears, and she was like, Desiree, like logically, I don't think that could happen because I don't think your mom has the strength to do that. And I was like, you know what? You've got a point. But I was so much in my survival brain that I was awfulizing and catastrophizing, and it was not helpful. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I think it's good to like have somebody to be your sounding board.
Mhm.
So do you guys like, so to sum it up, like sometimes those things make sense to me afterwards, but it could take a couple years. So
Mhm.
do y'all have an example of like maybe things were uncertain and I had no idea why it was happening, but it makes sense?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I'll go on the relationship side. I've already talked about, the uncertainty I'm in right now, but I'll go through something where I came through it. When I was going through a divorce, and it was the uncertainty about whether or not, number one, I should do it, because in my mind, I wanted to be different. I wanted to be the person that actually had a marriage that worked. And the thought of getting a divorce really, really was hard for me, because I wanted my life to be different. My parents are divorced, and they don't mind me saying that. But it's part of my story. But part of theirs too. So I'll just keep it at that. But I wanted to be different, and I wanted my divorce to be something that did never happen. So I started going through the steps of should I, shouldn't I? And then the uncertainty once we were going through the divorce. And at the same time, I had put my townhome up for sale. I had flood. The toilet upstairs in the master toilet had burst. I'd gone to dinner with a friend. I came back and there was water coming through the middle floor of my townhome. So all of this
Holy
is going,
moly.
and when they came to like start to like take everything out, they said, you're out of here for an undetermined amount of time, but and we know it's going to be more than 2 months. So grab your things, pack what you need, and you're out of here. So for me, that was a really, really tough time in my life. I was going through all of this, and I moved in with my best friend, and this this particular story rings through for a lot of different things. But I moved in with my best friend and her teenage daughters and her husband. I stayed in a guest bedroom, and I really, the uncertainty around like, when is this going to be over? And I think that that's the other piece of this too. When we're in uncomfortable situations, we're always looking for the easy out. We're always looking for the escape door, and trying to find like, how do I get out of this fast? Sometimes it just takes what it takes and the lessons that it takes to learn. I can look back now, like you said, Desiree, looking back, I can look back and go, what a wonderful gift I was given to live with my best friend, who's one of the best damn moms I know, and watch her raise teenage daughters. Because little did I know, a year later, I was going to meet someone who had 11-year-old twin daughters, who if y'all don't know, they later become teenagers.
That happens, the transformation.
And I was able to watch her and see what it was like to have a mom that, like, her home was just such an amazing place that teenagers wanted to be. And so I look back on that now. So I don't know. I think that it's just a matter of just holding on and just knowing that. I hate this saying, and I hear it all the time too now with, my husband having passed, this too shall pass. But it's true. I mean, it's a matter of, it just takes what it takes as long as it takes. And just know that it can't last forever. And that I always love, Joel Olstein says, sunshine is on the way. And I just remembered hearing him saying that when all of this was happening. And I just kept remembering sunshine is on the way, and just kept looking for the sunshine.
That's a beautiful story. I too had people that took me in when I was going through my divorce, and it was such a blessing for them to open up their homes.
Mhm.
And I remember I lived with one friend and I was like, y'all are so normal that I think you're weird. I told her that to her face. So if she ever listens to this, I was like, y'all are
Wow.
such a normal family that y'all are weird.
Yes, it's very weird. It was very weird. They've been together. I talked to her yesterday, 31 years this week. I think of this week, 31 years. I'm like, how is that?
Yeah.
Tell me
I mean,
everything.
yeah, I'm like, how did you find this person? Um, yeah.
That's so
Michelle, do you
funny.
have an example?
Seeing as we're on a theme of relationships, I might as well just continue the theme of relationships. Um, I kind of feel, I mean, this is kind of like when I was in my mid 20s. So I'll say that when I was still young and dumb. My brain hadn't developed. And even though this is probably going to sound really horrible, my mother passed at the age of 20 when I was 25. So it was kind of like a tough time, but I went on autopilot. But at the same time, when I was I was finishing college, I'd met someone, and then I moved to London, and we were dating, and it was like, let me just say, the naive person. He was controlling me. He was a narcissist, but I didn't see it. Okay. Um, and he would speak to my mother more than I would speak to my mother. Those types of things. In hindsight, when you think, bloody hell, he was speaking to my mother more than I was speaking to her. So, that's what kind of narcissists do. They kind of like make the friends and everything, and then they take you away from your friends, which
Mhm.
is what he was doing. But, I was in love, I was engaged, everything was wonderful. And then my mum got ill and she died within like 3 months of leukemia. And then kind of like everything changed. And we were obviously planning to get married and all of that. And I kind of went into autopilot. I was like, yeah, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. But, we all know I wasn't. We all know. And then it was just kind of like I hit this brick wall. And then I had to get some therapy and then realized what was going on around me. The fact that I was being controlled by this person, the fact that this person was a narcissist, he was, taking me away from my friends. But then there was that uncertainty of like, what do I do? Because I've been with this guy for nearly 5 years. My mum loved him. My dad liked him. Should I get married with him? And it was just the whole, what the hell do I want to do? But then in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to live in the UK anymore. I want to go away and I want to go and teach somewhere because I was teaching at the time. I want to go and teach somewhere else. But he didn't want to move. And so it was like I felt stuck and I'm just like, well, what am I going to do? And in hindsight, and again, it's going to sound probably horrible. If my mother had not passed away, I probably would have been married with a
Mm.
child and divorced. And I probably wouldn't be living in the US. I know it sounds
Okay.
terrible, but It's just kind of like that whole realization and the therapy and the working through that, yes, let's take care of the grief and then let's take care of this relationship that you're in. And then what do you want to do? And it's just like, I don't know. And then like, it's like things are going to happen and you have to put those steps into play. And again, the whole going back to the whole goal setting. And it was just weird. It was just so weird. But then we broke up, which was great, and I cut off all my hair, and that's why I got short hair. And that's the story.
No, okay. First thing, beware of a woman who makes a drastic hairstyle change because they're on a roll and they mean business, right? Have you ever heard
Yeah.
that? Like
No,
a
I've
woman
never
comes and cuts
heard
her
that
hair,
before.
like get out of her way.
I love it. I love it.
The second thing is, I
Love
don't
it.
think you need to preface that whole thing. You were like, I know it sounds weird. My dad died right 6 months before I was graduating from college. I had one semester left.
Mm.
And or 4 months, really, 4 or 5 months before I graduated from college. And I would have never moved because I took the job that I accepted so that I could stay in my home state and just travel. And the interesting thing is, this is when the dot-com bubble was starting to happen. I was going to work for a major computer company, and they had a shift in their market, in their consulting market, and they called me and they were like, "Hey, will you move to San Francisco?" And I lost it. I was like, I can't move to San Francisco. My dad just died. And I don't know anybody there. And like this poor hiring manager was probably like, too much information, young child. Right. But that's how I ended up in Atlanta. Right. And so I would have never moved to Atlanta had my dad not died. Right.
Right.
So my life would be very different if I still lived in my home state. Like I get it. Right. And we don't understand. So let's talk about strategies to help somebody who is really unbothered or bothered by the uncertainty in their life right now or in the world. Um,
Mhm.
so do y'all have any off the cuff thoughts on that? I can
Oh,
I can start if you
go on
want.
then. You go. You.
Like one is to keep your jump to conclusions mat in the closet. So, the whole office space thing of like, I'm gonna get my jump to conclusions mat out, right?
That's
Like
so funny.
let's not catastrophize and awfulize before we need to, right?
Mhm.
Because what that does is it puts our nervous system into gear, and then we can either
Mhm.
get into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Those places are not a good place to be living from long term. So keep your nervous system in
Yeah.
check.
I love that
I-
because that's one of the. I'm sorry, Michelle.
no, no, no. Go, 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 go,
I
go, go.
I think about being a hypnotherapist. One of the things that I teach clients is about being able to control their thoughts and being able to control, which means you control your mind, right? You can center yourself and bring yourself back from where we are geared and we are built to look at the catastrophic side of things. That's the way that it's from years of like lineage from being, chased by dinosaurs. We look at the worst case scenario of everything. So I like that you said that because one of the things with uncertainty is what would happen if we actually looked at the positive side of things? What would it be like if we could actually go, what if this does work in my favor?
Mhm.
What if this does change? If I could have looked at the time and gone, when I was going through my divorce and went, you know what, I'm doing the right thing for me because I know that what being married to him was the wrong thing for me. And whatever is coming is, and I love hearing a client and I actually just talked about this the other day, was like, well, all of this stuff is happening to me. What if I could say instead of everything is happening to me, it's happening for me?
Mhm.
And being able to go, you know what, it's the way that it's meant to be. Y'all, if Michelle, if you wouldn't have left the UK, Desiree, if you would have not moved to Atlanta, we wouldn't be here today, the three
Yeah.
of us together.
No, we would not.
And that would be such a shame for us as just together, the three of us, because you guys are magic for me every time that we get together. So that's the way I just look at it. Is just, can you look at it from a different perspective? Can you find the silver lining in it? And can you just take a moment to just kind of go, things are happening for me and not to me?
I love that. I love that. Um, I mean, whew, I- it's very simple. Get the help. Get some help because there's always going to be always, as I said, we can step outside. We don't know what's going to happen. Um, but I also think journaling can help. Um, and let me just say, I've suffered from a lot of stress in my life, and I'm sure we all have, and I've received a stomach ulcer. So that's how severe the stress had gotten, and it's like was eating up my stomach. Not anymore. Um, and sometimes you'll get those headaches, and sometimes you'll feel it, and there have to find a way of kind of getting rid of it. Again, it could be journaling, it could be meditation. Meditation is amazing. Yes, it's hard, it's difficult, it's hard to concentrate. I get it. It takes practice, but I'm telling you, it works in order for you to just calm that nervous system down. Because again, that nervous system will talk to the rest of your body, and then certain things will start to kind of like mess up and not function. And then we're going to start having those health issues. Um, so it really, really is important to make sure that you are kind of in tuned with your body and how and what sensations you're feeling, and then how to mitigate them again with whatever you need to do. Because let me tell you, suffering from a stomach ulcer is not pleasant.
Yeah, you got to drink that.
Not pleasant.
And you got to
Taking
drink
those
the nasty stuff.
Yeah, and taking those tablets and then having the acid reflux and then not being able to drink, hello, uh, any alcohol, not being able to eat garlic. What? I eat garlic all the time. So trust me on this one. Find ways to help calm yourself, even if it's going for a walk in
Yeah.
in the sunshine, whatever, just to kind of clear your head, whatever tactics you think that you need, exercise, but we're all of us, every single person on this planet lives an uncertain life every single day.
Yeah.
But again, it's the way how we cope with it. And, depending on what you want to do, again, get the help that you need. But yeah, again, it's hard. It's hard to adult and to life. Let me just say
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say one more thing, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's a little, maybe a little controversial, as well, but maybe sometimes it's good to just shut the outside noise down. And if something is upsetting you to the degree that you're not living your life to its completeness, maybe it's time to turn down the volume a little bit. Maybe, I feel like sometimes we allow other people's opinions to get in our heads and really,
Oh,
really, really
yes.
upset us to the degree that it perpetuates the situation. And maybe until the time you can handle some of the things that are being said around you, you can just say, for now, I'm just going to kind of turn down the volume. Maybe not turn it off, but turn down the volume a little bit. How much are you looking at your social media? How much are you looking at the news? How much are you looking? And maybe, I'm not saying stop, but maybe just turning it down just a little bit so that you can kind of get a handle on, yourself and being healthy for yourself before you can just kind of go back and turn up the volume if you want, or maybe turn it all the way off. I don't know.
I think that's healthy boundaries, right? And the
Yeah.
other thing that so have healthy boundaries about what you're consuming and
Yes.
realize that what you're consuming could be like it's what you're reading, it's what you're watching. Um, it's what you're reacting to on social media. It's going to continue to feed whatever you're engaging with. So like my feed might look very different. I mean, my feed's full of life coaching and like rah-rah stuff, right? It's pretty awesome sometimes. There's,
Rah, rah.
rah-rah stuff.
Mine is recipes. I don't know. It's like a lot of recipes.
Um, but yeah, like so, have boundaries. The other thing that I want to point out is when you're living with an activated nervous system all the flippin' time, you don't know what relaxation feels like. I don't know if we talked about
Mhm.
this last time. I didn't know what relaxation felt like until I was probably 30, right? I was like, "Oh, this is what relaxation feels like." Like I didn't like massages. They hurt. I was like, I did not know how to disconnect and decompress. That was not the family pattern I was raised in. And it makes perfect sense knowing my family history. My parents never knew what non-chaos was like, what peace was like. That just was not, that was a word we heard in church, but it was not an experience we had in our household. Peace. Never, right?
Wow.
And now I live alone. I have peace all the time. It's lovely. Now when people disrupt my peace, I'm like, get out of my house. Um, anyway, but like, so if you don't even know what it's like to slow down and to experience peace, then maybe that's a signal that you don't have that differentiator. If you don't even know that there's another way, you're going to just keep living life with the gas pedal down to the floor. And yeah, and you're just going to be like, okay, this is how life, and I just have to hold on and just push through. Well, you know what? Let's pull back. Let's take a minute, experience what peace is like, and know that there's another way, and that that peace is accessible to you. And it's a hell of a lot more. It has so much more to do with what's going on up here in your own noggin than what is going on around you.
That's beautifully said, Desiree. Absolutely true, 100%.
There's like,
I'm with you on the running 100 miles per hour constantly. And I think and you know what? I think because when I opened up my travel agency and I looked at wellness travel, I'm like, holy moly. This is what it's like to disconnect and relax and to do the self-care and oh, I love this. But telling my husband to sit his ass down, that's another story.
yeah.
I hope he listens to this, by the way.
Play it while he's sleeping.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
just like subliminal programming. Okay. So I have one more kind of conversation question to wrap it up. So in the coach's confessional, which is our kind of fun piece, this was an interesting question that came through. I was playing around with ChatGPT, and this question came through, and I was like, "Oh, we need to play around with this." So on the concept of uncertainty, let's flip the script. If you could know everything about your future right now, would you want
Oh,
to?
Ooh.
And why or why not?
Mm.
That's one hell
what?
of a
You
doozy,
know
right?
what? I feel like I need to be the parent taking away Chat GPT from you. Doing all these things. Golly.
Wow. That's
Isn't that a doozy, right? Because if we
it
think
is. Because I
like,
mean, you want the uncertainty, right? I mean, you don't want the uncertainty because it's scary. But on the flip side of that too, y'all, I sometimes look at like life as like this big present. It's that you're just continuously present that you keep just unwrapping. And how exciting is that to know, like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And especially when something good's happening, it's kind of like you know, and from my experience with uncertainty is like the way it all turns out is much better than I could have ever anticipated anyway. And it's just the way that for me, the universe just shows up right on time with the right, and it's just, I don't know. I look at the world sometimes maybe from the rose colored glasses, but in fact, I had one of the kids once say to me, "Why are you so happy?" I was like, okay, if that was an insult, not taken that way, but okay. But I look out the world as one big adventure. And if I can look at it through the eyes of a child and not really anticipate what's going to happen, but appreciate the moment, It's a beautiful thing. So my answer would be no. The uncertainty creates this just magical part of the world that I just continue to just be amazed and in awe by.
I love that. Michelle, are
I,
you
I'm I'm
ready?
I'm I'm still kind of like trying to decide.
Okay.
One piece, I'm like, yes, I want to know what's happening. I want to know what my future is right now. Because I, I'll admit, I do like a bit of tarot card reading now and then, just to kind of ask questions and see what's gonna happen. And and you know what, I'll be honest with this. I remember going to New Orleans with my cousin, and I did the tarot card reading, and she did say that I was going to meet someone with
Mm,
a child. And when I started dating, I met two guys. Yeah, I was dating two people at the same time, whatever. Um, and they both had children.
wow.
And then I was like, oh my God, this is freaky. And I do remember her saying that the one that you're gonna be with is gonna have a son. So I was looking out for it. I was looking out for it. So, yes, I like to know what's happening in the future to a certain extent, but then listening to Dory, I'm like, it's always nice to see what does show up and be surprised about, oh my God, this is happening and this is happening. So I'm kind of in the middle. I kind of like want both if I can have both, because why not? Right?
I think
Um,
that's a very honest answer.
yeah.
But you, Desiree.
I don't know that I would want to know. I don't know. I'd like, okay, riffing
I
on
mean, you're
what
the one
Michelle
who
said.
you're
I
the one that did this. You
This is
you
all your fault, Desi.
you asked Chat GTP.
ChatGPT decided to come up with this question.
ChatGPT needs a name.
Deliver it,
We'll
Steve.
just call him Chatty. Uh, anyway, Chatty Gaddy. Anyway, I think, this is what I would, okay, it's coming to me. My answer is coming to me. It's downloading. I think like Michelle said, I'd like to know, like the tarot card. This is what I would like to know. You're going to be okay. And it's going to be okay. Things are going to work itself out. And so what that points me to is having some way of having faith in those moments of like, holy crap, none of this makes sense. And I
Mm,
have control over that perspective, right? It's not necessarily knowing the details, it's knowing that I am going to be okay. And
Mm.
so that harkens back to, where the hell did that word come from? That harkens back. Anyway,
Is that a
maybe I
real
was
word?
huh?
Is that a real word?
I don't know. That brings up to me in that I just need to have faith in myself. So a lot of things, have y'all seen the little meme where it's a bird on a branch and it's like the bird doesn't have faith in the branch, that the branch will not break, but that it can fly away if it needs to,
I love that.
and its ability to fly if the branch breaks. So, what can we do to make sure that we're stronger? We're harder, like in CrossFit, we say become harder to kill, right? Like you need to be able to run fast and outrun your opponent and blah, blah, blah. Well, what can you do to strengthen your resilience, your resolve, your mental health? Have those tools, right? That's the thing. So, having faith that I'll be okay, that's kind of in my control. I don't necessarily want to know the gory details. Like, I don't need to watch that. I don't like movies because I'm like, I don't like horror films. I'm like, listen, my brain is enough of a horror film. I do not need any more ideas. Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
I'm with you.
appreciate cinema
I'm
as
with
an
you.
art form,
All good.
right? You get it? Like,
Yeah,
people either get it or
I
they
don't
don't.
watch horror. I don't watch
My
horror
life has
movies.
been a horror film at times. I don't need
No.
that.
Yeah. So, I don't want to know everything for my future right now. I just want to know that it's going to be okay.
I'll
And
tell
then
you,
that
that's
comes, huh?
go ahead. Sorry.
And then that comes to a state of faith, right?
And I think having good friends and people around you that also are there to be able to sometimes hold you or tell you it's going to be okay. and having people in your life that can tell you that when you don't believe it yourself at that moment.
One of the best pieces of advice that my therapist gave me when my mom was sick was create a text group of like 5 friends that you know you can depend on. Because
Mm,
when the shit is hitting the fan, you may not know that so and so is going to answer their phone, but in a group of 5 people, someone will probably be available. Someone will be available sooner rather than later. And so text that group, like check with these people and be like, I need a support group right now. Can you be on my support group? Right. And it was friends that didn't necessarily know each other, but I could text that group and be like, I'm really having a hard day today. I need to talk to someone. Right. And then somebody could be like, I have 20 minutes and I could get on a phone call with him. The other thing that really I loved was during COVID, like kind of one of the gifts. Remember beginning of COVID, everybody loved each other and we had chalk art and like the kids were home from school, but it was like, we're going to get sidewalk chalk and we're going to like in my neighborhood, they drew all kinds of beautiful pictures. And so getting outside to take a walk, like we really saw community come together at that point, and it was beautiful for a minute until then everybody's nervous systems got hijacked and then people started fighting, but that beauty is there, right? So tap into that beauty in the community, right? Find those people who you can be honest and vulnerable with, and that you can have healthy boundaries and look to for support.
I
Does
love
that make
Yeah,
that.
sense?
Absolutely.
definitely, definitely. And fire the ones that don't give you the support because they don't need to be in your life. Because
Yeah.
I think we're all at that age of like, you know what? I don't care if you're not going to be my friend. Or I don't need you in my life anymore. I think in the 20s we're trying to work out who's going to be my friend, or even in like high school, and then who's going to be my friends at college, la la. And then 30s you're just trying to still figure it out, and 40s you're like, fuck it. I'm just like, but I don't want you in my life. Bye. Out the door.
Michelle's got her little gold pen and she's sorting through her friends. She's like, you didn't make the cut.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you are on the shit list.
Yep.
Stepping.
We're going to throw you out with all the other gravel we got from the riverbed.
Yeah,
But I mean,
indeed.
and those little gold nuggets are priceless. And I count you guys. I mean, we have a group text thread that I just love. The 3 of us staying in touch in between episodes. And it's just such a gift to have you all in my life. So thank you.
Oh.
And
Listen,
I think that's pretty good for our episode on uncertainty. So we're going to invite you guys, we're going to wrap episode 4. We're going to invite you guys to tune in. So like, subscribe, all the things. You can find us on all the podcast player platforms. Doree's using the little, yes, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube, our little growing list of subscribers. Leave us a comment or a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can always submit questions to lifecoachesunfiltered@gmail.com. And we'll see y'all in 2 weeks. And next topic, we're going to be talking about anxiety, the anxiety monster.
Yeah.
So we will see y'all in 2 weeks.
bye
See
everybody.
ya. Bye.